That we can understand the spiritual law, we can understand the law of cause and effect, we can understand those principles upon which the structure that holds this whole thing together, and we can know that, and we are governed by that, because whether we know it or not, it is really the governing force in our experience, but we are also governed by the sense of love, which is really the connection to ourselves as spirit. And I'm not talking necessarily about romantic love, although that's a part of it, or even philos, which is brotherly love, which is also a part of it, but what is referred to as agape, which is that deep spiritual connection with God and ourselves, and our oneness that shows up as a result of that. And a sense that we show up in every circumstance and situation as an ambassador of love. And it's the way in which we speak our words, it's the way in which we look at people, it's the body language that we have when we're standing with somebody, it's whether we open our arms or not, it's how it is that we are present, it's how we respond to the experiences of the world. It's when somebody is angry at us, do we get angry back? Or do we stand in the presence of love and recognize that it's not about us and allow that energy to pass through us rather than bounce back off of us and be a healing presence in the presence of discordant energy? We can use the law for good or for evil. We have that choice. The law is the law, and the law in and of itself is not good or evil. The law is the law. We choose how to use it. We have that capacity. In the Garden of Eden, the whole story is about Adam and Eve coming into the knowledge of good and evil. And so when we have the knowledge of good and evil, which means we have the choice to show up in one capacity or another. So we can take the law and the law of mind action, which is thoughts in mind produce after their kind, and so we can think thoughts that are discordant and produce those in the world. The challenge is that when we do that, we receive back discordant thoughts. That's the process, and so that's how the universe is set up to balance that kind of energy. Love, on the other hand, can only be used for good. When we infuse the law with love, with spiritual understanding, with enlightenment, with spiritual awakening, then the law is used for good. Because we can only express good when we are living in a space of love. And love, liberally experienced in the presence of the law, infuses life with passion, with kindness, with inspiration, with hope, and so much more. There's so much more to it. Tony Robbins. How many know Tony Robbins? A lot of people. Tony Robbins can teach you the law. And he does it well. And he does it with enthusiasm. And he, fired up, ready to go. He has that sort of energy. And you can learn that. And then you can shoot out the door and use that in a way that creates your reality. And that's important. And I think that's an important part of our life. You don't have to come to church to get the law. The law is out there in every self-help book, and there must be a million of them out on the bookshelves. You can get all that. I think what we come to church for is for love. We come to feel how it is that we can show up in our life experience. We come to church to learn why it is that we're here. We come to church to feel that connection to Spirit, which calls forth love within our heart and within our experience. But love is elusive. Love doesn't always seem to be present in our life. And I have to tell you that part of my spiritual practices, is I try to incorporate things in my day that help me to feel that presence of God, that presence of love. And I have to confess that lately I've been watching episodes of Touched by an Angel, which is a very sappy sort of show. It's a rerun, it's on the Hallmark Channel, and I'll watch it, and I'll sit down and the reason, not because it's theologically part of my construct, it isn't, but what happens towards the end of the show, the angel who is kind of working with this situation reveals themselves to this person, and of course this light comes on, the whole kind of thing. you know. And then what they do is what they say, and they say it with such emotion, because it's the truth. They say, God loves you. And they say it in such a way that I feel it. And my eyes kind of tear up, and I feel that loving presence. And even though it's not the way my theology sort of is constructed, it isn't what it's about. It's about feeling that connection. It's about knowing that love is present in my life. And so I feel better having that experience. And that's a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual practice to do something each day that brings the presence and the feeling and the experience of love into our life. A deep sort of abiding love that is a connection to God. When I was writing my lesson Thursday morning, I got an email from, I always like to be distracted. You know, it's like I go over here and go over here. I have this ADD thing, you know, and I can focus for about an hour, and then I'm distracted. And so I got this email from one of my high school classmates, and she still lives in Kellogg, and she's sort of kind of the person that sends out all of the announcements and that sort of thing. And somebody in my class had a massive heart attack and passed away, and so she was sending that out and sending all the funeral arrangements and stuff. And so I wrote back and I thanked her, and you know, well, about an hour later, bing, another email pops up, and it's from her. And so I open it up, and it starts out, "Good morning, sweetie." And I thought, this is not for me. That I'm not her sweetie. I like her, but I'm not her sweetie. And I thought, Now, if I would have been really enlightened, I wouldn't have read it. But I'm just a little bit short in that moment, you know. And so I read it, and it was this very gossipy, you know, thing about somebody in the class and da-da-da-da, you know. And as further I moved through it, the clearer it was that it wasn't for me, you know, as I got through to the end. And then, of course, it was signed, "I love you," you know, the name of the person. And I thought, okay. An errant email that she did not intend to send it to me. She was sending it to somebody else, and I didn't know who that somebody else was. And I thought, okay, you know, how can I respond to this? You know, and so I can respond to it and make her feel bad, you know, or I can respond to it with thoughtfully and lovingly. And so I sat for a moment, and then I wrote back, and I just said, well, you'll probably be aghast and horrified when you realize that you sent this email to the wrong person. I said, however, I've done that before, and when I did that, I made a connection to somebody that I didn't expect to happen and became closer to them. And I want you to know that because of me having read this, I feel closer to you, and I feel your presence in my life. And I just want you to know that and know that it's okay. And sent it. And so I felt love in that moment. And she wrote back, you know, and instead of being, you know, sounding embarrassed or upset, or, you know, she responded to that. And so we're going to have lunch when I go up there sometime, you know. And which will be great. It'll be great to have a chance to visit with her and you know, talk and that sort of thing. And that's the truth. You know, we can take those moments, and either we can make somebody feel bad and push them away, or we can create a moment of connection. And when we create a moment of connection, we're really connecting with more than just that other person. We're connecting with the Spirit of God and the Spirit of love that lives within us. And that is a spiritual practice.